Welcome back. We are getting more and more complicated with the types of things that we're factoring. If you remember all the way back to 7.1, we were looking at prime factorization with factor trees and GCFs and finding those things. 7.2, we were pulling out a GCF, and 7.3, we learned how to factor a trinomial. We are still factoring trinomials in 7.4. It's just they just got a little bit more complicated. Notice that we have coefficients in front of the x squared now. We definitely have weird coefficients there, and we're going to change our strategy just a little bit. We're not going to be able to factor it as easily as we did in 7.3. And I think you guys picked up on that pretty good. So 7.4 is going to be, we're going to definitely change our strategy 100%. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and get started. First step that we're going to do here is we're going to take the coefficient 4 and we're going to multiply it times 15, okay? 4 times 15 is 60. So what I'm looking for are factors of 60 whose sum is 16, okay? That's what I'm looking for ultimately. So if I write it out, I do 1 times 60, 2 times 30, 3 times 20, 4 times 15, 5 times 12, 6 times 10, okay? 7, 8, 9 don't work. So here's my list, and everything's positive, so that's why I'm sticking with the positive factors. I don't need to worry about the negative factors because there are no negative signs. So only one of those actually adds up to be 16, and that's this one. 6 times 10 is 60, but 6 plus 10 is 16. I need those two numbers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring down 4x squared, and I'm going to rename the 16x. I'm going to rename it as two separate terms, whatever order you want to put them in. It doesn't matter what order they're in. I'm going to rename 16x as 6x plus 10x. Because you guys just told me that 6 plus 10 is 16. So that's how I'm going to split up the 16. Is I'm going to make it 6x plus 10x. And then I'm just going to drop down my 15. Now, think back with me just a second. Remember when we did polynomials a couple sections ago? Anytime I have 4 polynomials, I'm going to tell you how I solve it every single time. I factor by grouping. That's how I do it all the stinking time. Okay? So factor by grouping, I'm going to take the first two. I'm going to find the GCF of those first two terms. That would be 2x. What's left behind would be 2x plus 3, okay? Now I'm going to do the same thing again with the 10x and the 15. So the GCF of 10x and 15 is positive 5. And what's left behind when I pull that out? 2x plus 3. Holy Toledo, look what we just did. We have a common binomial. Let's pull that out, and whatever's left behind, which would be the 2x and the positive 5, that goes into its own quantity. And guess what, folks? You just factored a very complicated trinomial. You did a great job. So that's how I do it. I factor by grouping. That's generally how I do these very complicated quadratic trinomials with a coefficient out in front. Any number other than 1 to me is complicated. So if a is 1, then I'll do it like I did in section 7.3. But if a is any other number than bigger than 1 or negative number, whatever, I will factor just the way I just showed you. Okay? Now let me do b with you. All right, notice we've got a 6 out in front and we've got 3. So we're going to do 6 times 3, which is 18. Okay? Looking good. And then I need factors of 18 whose sum is 11. So I've got 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6, 4 doesn't work, 5 doesn't work, and we're back to repeating. Only one of these adds up to be that elusive 11 that we're looking for. So we're going to drop down 6x squared, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename 11x. I'm going to call it 2x plus 9x. That's 11x's new name, 2x plus 9x, and I'm going to drop down my 3. Okay? So now I have a 4-term polynomial, and I'm going to factor by grouping. That's really very simply what I'm going to do. So GCF of 6x squared and 2x, I'm going to pull out a 2x, and that's going to leave behind a 3x plus 1. And then I'm going to pull out a GCF of 9x and 3. I'm going to pull out a positive 3, and that's going to leave me with, yep, 3x plus 1. Oh boy, look what we just did. I now have a common binomial, so I'm going to pull that out. Yoo-hoo! And then what's left goes into the other quantity, and I just factored that joker of a trinomial up top for B. We did a great job. That's how you do it. We didn't have to do a lot of guessing and testing and hoping and wondering if I got the numbers right. This just gets you directly to the answer. I think it's a great system. I really do. Now see, I'm going to do this one with you because of the negative signs, okay? Let me do this one with you. I'll try and find another one for you to do for extra credit, okay? So take 3 and let's multiply it to negative 8, okay? 3 times negative 8 is negative 24. So I'm looking for factors of negative 24 whose sum is negative 2. So I've got negative 1 times positive 24, 1 times negative 24. Negative 2 times 12, 2 times negative 12. Negative 3 times 8, 3 times negative 8. Negative 4 times 6, positive 4 times negative 6. And then we start repeating. Guys, only one of them, when you add those factors, will give you negative 2. And hopefully your eyes rested right on those 2 factors. So we're going to drop down 3x squared. We're going to rename negative 2x. We're going to call it positive 4x and negative 6x. And then we're going to drop down our negative 8. Okay? Looking good. Let's factor by grouping. Let's start with the first 2. No common factor with the numbers, but we can pull out an x, so that's going to leave us with 3x plus 4. And remember what I said, if you have a leading number that's negative, pull out a negative, because that will change the sign when you pull out a negative. So I'm going to pull out a negative 2, and that's going to leave me with 3x plus 4. Because if you pull out a negative number, it's going to leave behind positives. That's what pulling out a negative does, okay? It changes the sign of the numbers. If you're not sure, just kind of ask yourself, negative 2 times positive 3x, what is that? Yep, negative 6x. Negative 2 times positive 4 is negative 8. So we know we did it right. Looky here, got the same exact quantity. There's my common binomial, and then what's left behind goes into its own quantity. And you just factored it. Great job. Okay, so bring your questions to class. We'll go over example 2 and figure it out in a little while.